all that stream in this online space. Welcome to the wonderful world of streaming. I was able to watch the first episode of Gargoyles, and I'm here to give my thoughts. Stick around.
So, I was just able to watch the first episode on Disney Plus of Gargoyles. This is the show that took place in the 90s, I believe. Let me pull it up here just to get my facts straight. I never watched this show. I was actually scared of it growing up. I'm a 90s kid. This came out between 1994 to 1996 on Disney Channel. And again, I didn't watch it because I was afraid of it. I would have been 3 or 4 at the time. Well, I would have been 2 when it came out. So I would have definitely not watched this show. It would have been way too old for me. But I really enjoyed it. Now, watching it 25 years later, it was a lot of fun. It reminded me of the Ninja Turtles. That's the very first vibe I got before even seeing the Gargoyles in their full form or being unleashed from their stone prison. The first episode was an origin story that took place in 900 AD or 995 AD, I believe. So this would have taken place 1,000 years before the time of the show being put out on televisions. But there was not a, how would I say it? It was geared towards children, but it was also geared towards adults. And I enjoyed that. It wasn't like there was dark humor or jokes that would have went over children's heads or something. But there was violence, there was blood, but it wasn't so over the top to where that I would be uncomfortable with a child watching this. The rating that they gave it back in the 90s there was a Y7, so children 7 and above would be able to watch it without adult supervision, I guess. But again, let your conscience be your guide. If you feel that this is inappropriate for your child to watch, then don't let them watch it. The show picks up after you meet the detective, and it goes back to their origins, or at least from where we see them in 995 AD at a castle where their job is to guard from the ongoing army and to guard the castle itself that they're perched upon. And whenever the night covers and the sun goes down, then they're able to break free from their stone prison, for lack of a better term, to where that whenever the sun comes up, they harden like a statue. And that's really important to note for what will happen in the future. So, of course, the gargoyles are guarding not only the humans, but also the castle itself, and they're able to thwart off the enemy and to send them running back to home. So again, that was a thing talking about the violence, that it wasn't so over the top where I would feel uncomfortable for children to watch, is that you don't see them break arms or anything like that. Like, it's implied that they killed some of them by throwing them off a really high ledge, but you don't see them fall or anything like that. You just see them thrown off. And even at the end, when the victory had been won for the gargoyles and the humans of the good guys, we'll call them, then they sent them home packing. They didn't choose to kill them, similarly to the enemy that we'll see later on. So let's skip ahead a bit. So even though that they were able to push away the enemy army, we see that there is a traitor among them, which I know I'm skipping past where the gargoyles meet the princess or whoever the lady was and her snooty brother, who considered them as beasts and didn't want them among them. Of course, we saw earlier the man, I forgot his name, who seemed to be Goliath's friend. Goliath is the main gargoyle, who at this point is the only one that's named. But this man here, you would think he would step up for them in the step up for the gargoyles, but he doesn't choose to do so. Goliath just seeks to show respect and to bow down to this person even though they're not showing them proper respect. Even though he could destroy her, he still shows respect to them and calms the other gargoyles to not harm the humans because it's against their code. So again, let me skip ahead to what I was trying to get at earlier. There is someone who is a traitor among them, and we find out that that traitor is messing with their bows. He's messing with their equipment in order to fight the enemy when they would come again, because they threatened that they would come back. And so after we see that, I don't know if it's before or after, but Goliath and another one of the gargoyles choose to go after the enemy to put an end to this once and for all, to get them away from the castle so they won't return. I don't know if that necessarily means to kill them. From what he said earlier, was just to scare them off, and he wanted to do it on his own, and to leave the other gargoyles there to protect the castle if something happened or worse came to worse. So they go away, and they find that the people that they were following, that were the enemy, was merely a decoy to get them away from the castle. And as I mentioned earlier, the idea of the sun coming down and hardening the gargoyles to where they can't move, that was a huge crucial point, because Goliath and the other gargoyle, they're so far out from home that by the time that they realize that they've been bamboozled, they begin to harden because of the sun, and they're not able to go back and defend their friends. So they come back, the opposing army, to destroy them, to destroy the gargoyles. Even though they're defenseless, they're made out of stone. And we see that all this was a ruse, or who the traitor was the man who is helping Goliath earlier. So there's a betrayal that you feel of this character that you thought was pro-gargoyle, but actually wasn't for some reason. I can't recall the reason for why he chose to hand them over. But what happens is that they invade, the enemy does, and then the head officer of the opposing army, who we had seen before get his tail kicked by Goliath and thrown into a hay bale, he wants to destroy the gargoyles, even though they're defenseless, and he doesn't want them to come after them again, which shows a lack of mercy on his point versus Goliath when he had them in the palm of his hand, but yet he chose to let them go. Now this opposing officer is looking to bash the stone gargoyles so that way that they can't come back. To also point this out, if you've forgotten, not all the gargoyles were destroyed. Of course, you have Goliath and the older gargoyle that was with him, but earlier there was an altercation between some of the gargoyles and the humans, a misunderstanding between them. The hard-headedness of the humans caused, or at least the mother of the boy who was seeking to befriend them and talk to them, and the gargoyles were happy to communicate with the boy and to be friends. But the mother, with this bias of who the gargoyles were, wanted to step in and just consider them as beasts, and they said, well, if you think that we're beasts, let's live up to the name, let's do it. And that causes a riot, and that causes Goliath to send 3 of the gargoyles down into, I forgot what they called it. It was basically like their Ninja Turtles lair underneath the ground. Again, going with the Ninja Turtles trope of what I've seen so far. Which, again, I'm going into this knowing nothing about the gargoyles other than that they come to life. That's literally all I know about the show, and that it was popular and it was on Disney. So when the opposing army came through, they were safe underneath the ground. So they were saved. But there was a female character that was Goliath's love, I think he called her the Dark Angel of the Night or something like that. But that was his love, and he had even professed his love to her to say that, you know, you and I are forever, those kind of sentiments. And when he comes back to see the destruction of what the enemy's done, is that all the gargoyles that were on the surface that were defenseless, he killed them all in their stone form, so that way when the sun comes up, they wouldn't be able to come after them anymore. So now, again, I have no idea what's going to happen next. They had a short little thing after the a short little to be continued thing after the first episode, and of course, from how the episode began, we know that we're going to go to modern day, and it seems that the government is coming in to harness the power, or some kind of organization is coming in to try to harness the power of the gargoyles to use them more than likely for bad. If they really play up this Ninja Turtles thing, then the Hand Clan will come in and try to use them for their own purposes. But I'd like to do more of these. I really enjoyed Gargoyles a lot, and I can see why, or what the hubbub is about the show. It seems like a lot of fun. I enjoyed the Ninja Turtles kind of aspect of it. I want to see that develop. I like the idea of there's a us and them kind of thing, and the Gargoyles, even though they're being rejected, they're seeking to try to bridge that gap. So yeah, I suggest that if you haven't watched Gargoyles like me, then please watch it. It's fun. It's a good show, and I'm looking forward to watching more episodes, and I hope that you're looking forward to me talking about more of these episodes. And thank you for listening to my rambling about the episode, and I hope you watch more with me and come back here to discuss these things with me down in the comments below. But until next time, this is Corey signing off. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.